I've had the iPhone 13 Pro that you guys are watching this video on for 2.5 years, and here are my thoughts. Okay, so some basic specs. This space gray iPhone 13 Pro Max comes with 256 gigabytes of storage, and that retailed for about $1,200 back in 2021. However, today you can find the same phone on Swappa or other third-party retailers for about $600. Many reviews came out shortly after the iPhone 13 Pro Max released in late 2021, hailing it to be the battery champ or the new battery king, dethroning the iPhone 11 Pro Max. I will say it's still the king of battery. Like, if you see the battery tests that have been posted recently, it still goes toe to toe with the iPhone 15 Pro Max, which is, 2 years newer. I use my phone for pretty much everything, from reading about patients to prepping for clinic to prepping for surgeries, and then outside of the hospital, using it to run this entire YouTube channel. So I needed a phone that could last me days. And this phone literally does. Like, there have been many instances where I have fallen asleep without charging, and I've woken up and I've been able to get through my next shift at work. And 2 years later, even though my battery capacity is around 86%, my phone still lasts all day. And this is the single biggest reason why I haven't felt the need to upgrade to the new 15 Pro. And here's what I think this experience with battery life teaches us about purchasing decisions. As part of my medical training, when a patient has a given disease, we're taught to look for signs and features that'll tell us whether they're going to survive a little bit longer with the disease or a little bit less. And for example, across the spectrum pretty much in medicine and human disease, patients with more like social support and better social structures tend to do better than patients who don't. In a similar vein, if you think about phones, you want to be able to look for predictors that'll tell you whether you're getting a phone that's going to last you a really long time. And I think that one of those most important prognosticators is the battery life on release day. Since companies, even Apple, routinely put out phones that have lackluster battery life, it's important to watch the videos and the battery tests and to see whether the phone that you're about to spend $1,000 or more on meets your expectations for where you want it to land at the end of the day or after 2 days. The combination of the ceramic shield and stainless steel rails on the iPhone 13 Pro Max has been absolutely phenomenal for durability. I remember one instance, I was getting home from a shift at the hospital and I was getting out of an Uber and my phone was on my lap. As I got up, I was holding a water bottle, holding my backpack, and I forgot that my phone was on my lap, as sometimes happens after a long day, and it fell into the concrete. Now, I use my phone cased 50% of the time and caseless 50% of the time. In this instance, when it fell out of my pocket, it was caseless and there wasn't a screen protector on it. And so once I heard it hit the concrete, I cringed on the inside, and I knew for a fact that the screen was gone. I knew that it was shattered. But when I went to go pick it up and flip it over, there was not even a single scratch. And I was like amazed. I honestly thought that I had missed something. So I continued to look when I got in my apartment. I kept scanning, and the only things that I found were some dents and some scratches on the stainless steel rail itself, where the rail meets the glass. And that was the first instance where I was like, this is the first time I've dropped a phone on concrete and didn't suffer major financial consequences. I think the softness of the ceramic shield and the flexibility of the stainless steel makes for an ideal combination when dropping these glass sandwiches on concrete and other hard surfaces. I think when you change up the materials, as Apple has with their newer phones, and you have less flexible materials, more rigid materials like titanium, you run into the issues that people are having where they're having their phones crack very easily. It's a little sad to see Apple transition away from this very successful design format given how durable it is, but it was nice to not have to use my Apple Care Plus for a phone for the first time in my life. So that brings me to another prognosticator about phone longevity. Surprise, surprise, durability. Every year, since Apple has added the Pro moniker to their phones with the 11, people have debated whether the phones really live up to that name. But for someone like me who is just starting to get interested in video, obviously, like, I grew a little bit on TikTok with my 11 Pro, and then I was looking for a little bit more advanced cameras to start up a YouTube channel. The 13 Pro opened me up to capabilities that previously were locked behind professional camera gear. Now, I'm not going to say that I knew what all to look for when I was picking a new phone to serve as a mainstay camera rig. All I really wanted was something that could capture light better than my old phone, and this thing did the trick very well. Even now, I feel very confident filming videos on it in my studio, and I've been pretty surprised and pretty happy with the kinds of video that comes out of this tiny device. The other bells and whistles, like the 120 Hz display, the thinner notch at the top, the 256 gigabytes of storage, triple camera array, and premium feel in the hand, are things that have kept the phone fresh and young and new for me, despite it being over 2.5 years old now. Now, if you've noticed, I haven't spoken about the performance, the software experience, or done an in-depth camera breakdown at a single point in this video. Bet you don't see that every day. Well, I hope you learned that battery life definitely matters to the consumer. I think they took a step back with the 14 Pro. I think they went back in the right direction with the 15. And it seems like they're seesawing every year, where they have 1 year where it's excellent, 1 year where it's not so great. And it's because they keep trying to reduce the cell size. I'm not completely sure why they do this, but I think they understand by now, hopefully, that consumers love good battery. They found their magic formula with the ceramic shield and the stainless steel rails with the flat glass. And I think Apple should consider revisiting this sandwich model because it's very visually appealing, feels very premium, and it doesn't break. And what about consumers? What can we learn from my experience with this phone for 2 years? Well, like I mentioned earlier, the drop test and battery life videos are very helpful prognosticators and trying to figure out how long your phone's going to last before you really need to upgrade. The next thing is that bells and whistles can actually make an older phone feel fresh for a longer period of time. And the third thing is that all phones, especially iPhones, will perform way beyond what the average user needs. I think even me, I've never really ran into the ceiling of this phone except for in storage. And that's easily surmountable with an external drive. Altogether, I think I'm crystallizing an idea that I've had for a few months now. And everyone knows that phones are getting more consistent, more durable, or lasting longer. But I think you should only really upgrade, and it only becomes really feasible or worth it to upgrade when you get an excellent carrier deal. If you're not getting a great deal, then you're missing out on a ton of trade-in value for your phone, to the point where you're paying a ton of money for a phone that's not significantly better than the phone that you probably currently have. Obviously, if you have a phone that's like pre-Face ID, very old, then the equation's a little bit different. But I think for most people who are on an 11 or later, they're probably doing just fine. It can probably get away with a battery replacement instead of a new phone, because the year-over-year improvements aren't that substantial anymore. They're very minor things. I mean, we're talking about a port change or like flat glass to rounded glass. How much of a difference does this make in day-to-day life? For 95% of people, none. I mean, we've never been more reliant on our phones than we are today. And we want them to be reliable things that we don't need to change out every 2 years. I mean, think about how often you get a new car. Or think about how often you get a new laptop. I think phones are already there. That's been it. See you.